This is no regular Ioniq 5, and in fact, it's actually no regular electric car either. This is the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. You could argue that this is the most important car to wear the N badge so far. You could also say it's probably the most audacious Hyundai to date as well. This costs over $110,000 plus on-road costs. It's got over 470 kilowatts, 0 to 100 in 3.4 seconds. That's all impressive stuff, but the engineers behind this car have promised that it's a more enjoyable and engaging car to drive despite being electric. I'm really excited to get behind the wheel of this car and have a steer. We've got track time booked, we've got on-road time booked, and we're going to find out a lot about this new Ioniq 5N. Let's go. The 2024 Hyundai Ioniq 5N will land in Australia with a price tag of $111,000 plus on-road costs. This makes it significantly more expensive than a regular Ioniq 5, and it's also now the most expensive Hyundai to date. However, the levels of upgrades to this performance EV are also significant. Firstly, power gets upgraded from a regular 239 kilowatts and 605 newton meters in an all-wheel drive Ioniq 5 up to 448 kilowatts and 740 newton meters. But wait, there is more. With the N-Grin boost function turned on, there's a huge 478 kilowatts and 770 newton meters available, giving the Ioniq 5N the ability to accelerate from 0 to 100 in 3.4 seconds, despite weighing 2.2 tons. Regenerative braking has been upgraded as well, and it's backed up by 4-piston, 400mm front and 360mm rear friction brakes, and 275mm wide Pirelli P0 tyres at all 4 corners make contact with the ground. It's not all just about big power and acceleration though. A 4th generation 84 kWh battery debuts in this Ioniq 5N, and it's complemented by a heat pump and chiller to manage temperatures under duress and extend the amount of time you can spend on the track. Hyundai's eGMP platform has been to the gym, with 42 additional weld points and 2.1 meters of extra adhesive around the body for extra stiffness. Front suspension is all new and the rear suspension has been overhauled, plus the subframes front and rear have been strengthened. Steering has been strengthened up and it's got a faster ratio, and there's an electronic limited slip rear diff and adaptive damping all round. On the outside, there are 21-inch forged alloy wheels and a lower ride height and wider stance overall, along with a little bit more length thanks to that rear diffuser design. The body is designed to balance a decent aerodynamic performance, but also add in a bit of lift at the front and rear downforce for track performance. On the inside, there are N-branded sporty bucket seats with heating and ventilation, a reworked steering wheel, and a range of eco materials used throughout the cabin. And just like the regular Ioniq 5, the interior of this car is spacious, comfortable, and practical. It has a noticeably commodious second row and a 527-litre boot space. Currently cruising along in regular old normal mode in this Ioniq 5N, and it's doing all the usual electric car things. It's quiet and it's smooth. One thing I'm noticing straight away is that this doesn't feel overly stiff or firm through the suspension. Steering's a little bit different. There's so many changes to this car underneath the skin as well as on the outside, and we'll get to all of that. But at the moment, this is just a regular, comfortable, easy car to drive. And I think this is important because before you get to all the fun stuff, you're probably going to be buying this car to drive and live in just about every day. So is it a comfortable daily driver? Yes. Similar to the Ioniq 5, this is smooth, quiet and comfortable. Feels well engineered, just feels good overall. I could definitely personally live with this car. But let's talk about some of the buttons we've got on this steering wheel here, because there is a lot going on. Firstly, you've got this blue button here. It's that Namyang blue of drive modes. Normal, that goes to sport, and that just stiffens up the suspension a little bit. I've got a little bit more response through the throttle there as well. This thing's starting to feel fairly rapid actually. You can put on a lot of pace in this car very, very quickly. But there's more. So further down, there's another button, and that's N. Press that. This is starting to get a little bit more serious, and I'm just going to explain now. Driving along, doing 50 k's an hour, I press the pedal, Jesus, you feel it in your stomach. This thing is quick, this thing is rapid. It's not the first car to do this. Obviously there are a lot of electric cars that do it, but this is where things change. There's another N button. I know a lot of buttons, but bear with me. Hear that? It's purely synthetic, but let me tell you, I actually don't mind it. I've got paddle shifters now, and I can run through the gears and I can change gears myself. I'm in fourth now, drop it down to second. It actually feels kind of like an internal combustion car. It's crazy. The gear changes, you feel it, it's all synthetic, and I really thought that I wouldn't like it. I've got to be honest with you. I thought, no, if it's fake, I'm not gonna like it, no way. But I do. And in this mode, you start to accelerate through the gears. First, second, third. I'm well over 100 Ks very quickly, but you feel more engaged with what's going on. You've got those cues in front of you. You've got a tacho, you've got the noise, you've got the shifts. It feels like a driver's car, more so than any other electric car I've been in so far. And it's so important. It really changes the experience of this vehicle. But the next thing to talk about is obviously the way it handles and the way it steers. This thing has reworked front suspension. It's completely reworked, in fact, and the rear has been overhauled as well. It's stiffer, there's more adhesives, there's more welding. The steering has been stiffened to the point where even the column in front of me here, the way the column mounts to the dashboard has been strengthened up as well. So this is a different driving experience to an Ioniq 5. When you start ripping through the corners, you can feel the feedback. And this is the big challenge with this car, I think, because it's 2.2 tons. You cannot get around that with an electric car at the moment. Big battery, big weight. Albert Biermann said he had to make an elephant dance with this car, and he's done a good job because it does feel engaging and it does feel fun. The weight is certainly there, but because of the traction control system here, it's pushing torque to the right wheels at the right time. And it's all kind of happening behind the curtain, I suppose. It feels like just a nice driving experience here. It might be too many buttons for some people, because I haven't even gotten to all of them yet. There's so much stuff to get through with this car. However, it just feels like a fun driver's car as well. And the engineers told us that while motoring journos, probably grizzly people like me who just like an old-fashioned 5-speed manual and a straight 6 or something like that, people like that don't necessarily want all this stuff. They just want the pure driving experience. But actual end customers, they thrive on this stuff. And I do get it, right? You're going to own this car for a long time. There is so much stuff to dig through. I'm not going to do it justice in this video, to be honest with you, because there is just so much. But if you own this car for many years, there's a lot of stuff to explore. Now there's one final party trick I want to show you before we get onto the racetrack, and that is NGB. So that's N grin mode with the boost. So an extra 40 kilowatts, you get the full 470 kilowatts of power. You press it and you get 10 seconds. And it's just outrageously fast. It cools off for 10 seconds, but then you get the full 10 seconds again. It's mental. The engineers at Hyundai's performance division said they didn't want to make the fastest electric car, they wanted to make it the most fun. And I think they've done it so far. They've really set the benchmark for an electric driver's car. It weighs 2.2 tons. It doesn't feel like it because it's got brakes for days, it's got power for days, it's got grip for days as well. This is seriously good fun. And after some time behind the wheel on the road, we also got the chance to sample the Ioniq 5N on the racetrack. We're now on the racetrack in the Ioniq 5N. I've driven this on the road for a bit and I've had a bit of fun through some corners, and I've got to tell you, this car feels completely different to any other electric car I have driven. I'm actually changing gears, I'm not really, but I'm engaging with the car so much more because of this E-shift function. Naturally, there's so much performance on offer as well. We've got 470 kilowatts in the overboost function. There's 740 Newton meters of torque. It's fun. I thought that I would not like the synthetic experience of this car, I've got to be honest with you. But I don't. I actually do enjoy it. They talk about driving fun with the N brand, and I'm fully on board with it, I've got to say. Now we're going to go into N mode, so a little bit more performance biased here. It's going to be a different split with the power distribution. It's going to have a bit of a rear-wheel drive bias going on. You can feel it slip around behind you there. It's got a rear-wheel drive bias, plenty of power, synthetic gear changes. I've got a rev limiter here. If you don't think EVs are fun, I dare you to drive this car and come out with the same opinion. This car weighs 2.2 tons at the end of the day. Mr. Bierman said it's like trying to make an elephant dance, but he also said he's done exactly that before with big performance SUVs. So it's not his first time making something 2 tons or more feel like fun to drive, but in this case he has absolutely done it. This thing feels really fun. It turns in nicely. It's got a crispness that other electric cars just don't seem to have. And there is power there. I got out of shape before, and I'm pretty lucky that I caught it, I think, but this is a fun driver's car. There's engagement, there's involvement. More so than what I've experienced elsewhere. So now, torque distribution. Rear wheel drive 100%. Peak power is down, but I could not give a damn because this thing is a rear wheel drive fun car. Still plenty of power. Feels a bit more alive, a bit more tingly, and you've got to feel it through corners. Oh man. Lots of grip in these tyres here, but there's lots of power too, and well, once you do get out of shape, you do have to rein in over 2 tons, so definitely be careful. It's a bit of stability control there, I'm sure, but this feels playful, this feels fun. Oh my lord. Hyundai engineers tell us that up to 0.6 G of braking is available purely under regen, and it will use regen all the way up to 2 G of full ABS brakes. And then you've got, of course, 400mm steel rotors up the front. So that's the biggest brakes ever fitted to a Hyundai. 360mm at the back as well, which is nothing to be sniffed at. So as much as this car is big and heavy, it's got some big brakes and big performance. So it all kind of matches out a bit. So now we're on the cool down lap to let this thing cool down, just like you would do in an internal combustion car, of course. Currently the battery temperature is 25 degrees. They've kept that nice and low. It's got its own chiller system, which is pretty cool. So yes, there's going to be issues when it comes to recharging this thing. The racetrack's going to need a charger. There might be other people there. It's going to take longer than refueling. But when you've got a full battery, man, this thing is fun. I think I'm like a lot of other people out there who love to drive cars. I love internal combustion. I like the noise, the feel, the vibrations, the sounds, all of that stuff that comes together to form the driving experience. And up to this point, electric cars, well, they've got the performance, but they don't necessarily have that connection. This does change things a little bit. This is the most fun I've had in an electric car by far, hands down. It's a lot of fun to drive. There's a lot to explore as well. And because of all of that technology that Hyundai have put into this vehicle, it feels more engaging and more enjoyable. So it's not a replacement for internal combustion. That's always going to be there and it's always going to be special, but this is by far the best substitute to date.